Okay, it's 5 o'clock. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting, the City of Victorville, June 8th, 2022. I'll call this meeting to order, and can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cook Askins,
Present.
Commissioner Messon.
Here.
Vice Chair Harriman,
Here.
Chair Kurth,
Here.
and Commissioner Thomas is absent. We have quorum.
Thank you. Next up, we'll be led the invocation by Commissioner Cook Askins Jr., followed by the pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet this evening. We ask a special blessing upon the commission as we conduct business this evening, and also a special blessing upon our city council and all of our residents of our great city of Victorville. Amen. Amen.
Ready?
The United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll go over a quick public participation overview. Excuse me. The Planning Commission is interested in hearing from the public. Individuals from the public may speak on agenda items or on issues not posted on the agenda during this public comment section, providing those issues are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Individual speakers may address the Planning Commission once per public comment period and once per each public hearing item for up to 3 minutes. For those attending the meeting in person, and though not required, please complete a speaker card prior to the start of the meeting and place in the clear speaker box located at the dais counter. If you'd like to comment on a public hearing item, please submit a speaker's card before the public hearing item is announced. For those attending by Zoom, please click the raise your hand feature located on the Zoom screen. Whether attending this meeting in person or via Zoom, once comments are invited, the speaker will be called on by name, then recognized by the presiding officer. Audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, and those who do are subject to removal from the meeting pursuant to Code 403. Your understanding and cooperation are appreciated. So at this time, as according to the Brown Act, we'll now offer time for general public comments on any item that is not on today's agenda. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak during general public comments? Seeing no one, is there anyone online?
No, there's not.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we can move on to agenda item number 1, staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Agenda item number 1 is case number PLAN 22-00012. It is a development agreement to allow for a 1-year time extension for tentative tract map 14525, which is a 319 lot single family residential subdivision that was previously approved and environmentally assessed. The project site is located west of and abutting Starter Wells Road, south of Interstate 15, and approximately 2,000 feet north of D Street. For reference, the site is located between Starter Wells Road and the Mojave River. The subject project site is located within an undeveloped plan unit development that was originally approved in 2009 and updated in 2016 It allows for 5,000 square foot lots and includes sufficient amenities in accordance with Title 16, including a clubhouse, swimming pool, and multiple parks. The site has been previously disturbed from historical agricultural uses on site. However, the location is currently vacant and unused. As the map currently sits, it is scheduled to expire on July 7th, 2022. This accounts for an original approval date in 2009, as well as the original 3-year approval, 6 years of administrative extensions, as well as 4 years, of assembly bill extensions by the state legislature. And as much as the administrative time extensions and legislature extensions for this map have been exhausted, the applicant has proposed a development agreement to extend the life of the map for 1 additional year. To clarify, development agreement is a negotiated contract between the developer and the city that sets forth responsibilities and obligations for each party for a defined time frame. In this case, there is no responsibilities and obligations to the city. The only request of this development agreement is to allow for a 1-year time extension of the map, to allow the developer to proceed with recordation of the final map, preparation of improvement plans, etc. This is not unheard of. Historically, we've seen development agreements for specific plans and planning and developments due to the large capital they invest in the beginning of the process to prepare development standards, prepare master plan infrastructure. And in fact, a development agreement was last executed by the city in 2020 for a similar planning and development for the sole purpose of extending it by a year. As proposed, the project complies with the general plan and the underlying planning and development. It also is able to comply with all the required findings for a development agreement to be approved by the Planning Commission. And regarding the environmental assessment, it has been previously assessed. However, staff would note that this function of the development agreement will not allow dirt to be moved on site. It will only allow the recordation of the map. So at such time as development is proposed on site and dirt is requested to be moved, staff will re-review updated environmental studies to ensure that all the existing mitigation measures are sufficient. Should they not be, a modification will be presented to the Planning Commission for future review and approval. That being said, staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, receive testimony regarding the proposed project, and take the following actions. Find the project previously assessed for environmental purposes and adopt resolution number P-22-030, recommending city council approval of the development agreement case number PLAN 22-00012. Staff remains available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Haragi. Any questions of staff? Thank you.
I have one. Will this be the last time they can do this?
So it's for a period of 1 year. They are authorized by the municipal code to request an extension. If an extension is requested, it will be brought before the Planning Commission for recommendation again to ensure that the findings noted in the staff report and the resolution can still be made.
How long can they do it? This has been quite a while.
The Subdivision Map Act does not put a limit in terms of the development agreement. Historically, when we've done development agreements specifically for time extensions, we've only done them for a year in the past. So there is a precedence there that what we've approved them for, and specifically PUDs for a year. However, it could be requested, and there is no limit on the amount of time that I'm aware of subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on item number 1. Is the applicant or developer happen to be here? Do you have any questions or comments for us? Nothing? Welcome.
Manuel Mancha representing the ownership of the property. We have started the final engineering on the site. In fact, I just paid $45,000 today for plan check fees. So we plan to move forward this as quickly as possible, and we appreciate the extension to get it all done.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here in the council chambers that would like to speak to us on item number 1? Any online?
No, there are not.
Okay, then I will,
We just had one person raise their hand. Angel Esparza.
go ahead, Mr. Esparza.
Hi, good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, members of the planning commission. I got a question for, I see a development agreement here. And I understand it has something to do with, our development agreement. I understand it has to do with, an extension, but for the developer, I know that we just got some local graduates here that are graduating from the local high schools and things like that. They got a great career connections program up there in the high desert. Question is, when we're approving this type of projects, how many high school graduates are going to be allowed to perform work or actually get a hands-on aspect of building some of these homes here that's you're planning to develop? How many folks can we put to work within the local community and the local, coming out of the local high schools and things like that? What my question is to the developer. That's all I got.
Thank you for your comments.
There are no additional speakers.
Thank you. So I will then close the public hearing on item number 1, and I'll bring this back to the commission for a determination.
Can we ask questions to the developer?
Yeah, we can. I can open that public hearing back open.
Okay.
And this is for the representative that spoke. If you want to come forward, we have a question regarding the project.
So I gotta say, this project, since the beginning, I've been very excited about. We really need a project like this in Victorville. So I am pretty much just voicing my, opinion, of course, but I'm looking forward to this moving forward. So that's why I asked a question about the extensions. So I'd like to see this happen. So I'm just thought I'd mention that.
No, we're prepared to move forward this and get it finally done. We're just waiting for the market to improve after all these years. And it finally has, so we have incentive to do the final engineering and vest the map.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will reclose the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
I'll move that we approve the item as written.
Commissioner Cook Askins, second.
I have a first by Vice Chair Harriman, a second by Commissioner Cook Askins. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Cook Askins,
Aye.
Commissioner Messin. Aye. Vice Chair Harriman,
Aye.
Chair Kurth.
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Thomas being absent.
Thank you. Congratulations on getting through that. Agenda item number 2, staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Kurth and fellow commissioners. Item number 2 is case ADMN 22-00042. It is a minor site plan with an environmental exemption to allow for exterior modifications to an existing multi-tenant commercial building zone C2 general commercial and the suspension of the requirement to underground existing overhead utility lines. This is located at 14668 7th Street. The applicant is requesting approval of this minor site plan to allow for the establishment of a new Superior Grocer supermarket within an existing retail space at the northwest corner of 7th Street and La Paz Drive. This shopping center is currently anchored by 99-cent only Harbor Freight and an indoor swap meet, which is proposed to be repurposed for this Superior Grocers. The new supermarket will occupy approximately 35,000 square feet of tenant space and will include a complete renovation of the building's interior, including the conversion of an existing 3,068 square foot outdoor garden area into an interior square footage as well as a facade enhancement and numerous site improvements, such as a new trash enclosure, public litter containers within the parking area, cart corrals in the parking lot area, new landscaping, and as I mentioned, the building facade improvements. This type of tenant improvement is normally approved at staff level at the by the zoning administrator. However, given that the site triggers the requirement to underground utility lines, the applicant is bringing forward this application to request the planning commission suspend the utility lines from being underground at this time. As seen on the site aerial there, there is existing overhead utility lines that traverse the site from La Paz Drive all the way to the fairground site. The existing fairgrounds and the shopping centers to the southwest have built out, but they have maintained their overhead utility lines. And therefore, this middle piece where this retailer is proposing to go, it would comply with the Planning Commission's suspension policy for underground utilities or street improvements, given that it's surrounded by properties that have not underground their utilities as well. So staff is supportive of the suspension agreement. They would still be required to underground at some point in the future should some of the neighboring properties underground where it makes sense, where it could be done in a uniform manner. But with that, staff finds the proposal as conditioned and as outlined in the staff report meets all municipal code standards, and therefore requests that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing to receive testimony regarding the proposed project, take the following actions. Find project categorically exempt under 15332 of the California Environmental Quality Act entitled Infill Developments. And 2, adopt a resolution number P-22-033 approving the site plan case number ADMN 22-00042 subject to the attached conditions of approval. And with that, staff's available should you have questions.
Thank you. Any questions on this one for staff?
Hey, so my question is, so it'll go underground when something else happens, so it can all be incorporated together and happen at one time?
So if the Planning Commission tonight were to approve the project with the allowance of a suspension agreement, that suspension agreement would be recorded against the property. And at some point in the future, if the city were to want those utility lines underground, we could call upon that suspension agreement and request that the developer or property owner at that point underground those utility lines.
So it doesn't necessarily have to wait for something else to happen. The city has the authorization to just say it's time to do it.
Correct. It would require that the Planning Commission to revisit that at a certain date. We more than likely only call upon a suspension agreement at a point when the properties adjacent to it are going to underground as well. Okay, thanks.
And to piggyback on that comment, I was just trying to think of, I know we've seen many suspension agreements. What in a real world scenario would have to happen for things along 7th Street there to be undergrounded? Because like you said, I don't think the city's just going to show up one day and say, hey, we'd like to have the lines underground because it looks better. But what would happen along 7th Street in the future, even a long time from now, that would typically require it then to go under? Can you think of anything?
It's typically some type of comprehensive redevelopment in the area. So if like the fairgrounds were repurposed and there was a need to underground those utility lines, where Plaza Drive is, or say where La Paz Drive is, and there was a need for them to participate in undergrounding, that's when we would call upon the suspension agreement. But, I don't envision the city at any time in the near future calling upon that suspension agreement. The suspension agreements and the planning commission's policy was, to allow for properties that have been built out before to allow them to make minor improvements like this, like where they're, enclosing a outdoor patio area, without having them held to current standards to underground. This is not a new development where they have the luxury to roll all of those costs into the full construction cost of the project. So for projects where we have existing development, it is a typical request of these developers to ask for the suspensions because they don't have the financing to endure that cost.
Yeah, totally understand that concept, and we have all along. I just was kind of curious of, it sounds like it would be, like specifically in this area, it would have to be major redevelopment throughout the whole area to then justify calling out specific property owners and say, hey, a majority's going under, so you've got to go too. That's most likely what'll happen. Okay. Any other questions?
Scott, I know that the developer needs to redo the pavement in the front up to the 2 first parking slots. Does that extend out to the entrance of the site from La Paz turning in? Or is it further back?
It does include a portion, I think the aerial that's shown on the display right now shows the area along La Paz where they'll be improving. They'll also be improving the multi-tenant area that's not shown within that boxed red outline, yes.
I had a couple of questions. The first one was, I know there's a donut shop and a smoke shop. Is that going to be kind of redesigned or refurbished any, or is it just the current location itself?
It is not included in the scope. It's a separate property owner that owns that site, even though they're willing to do some improvements to the parking lot area. So you'll see a remodel in the manner of improved access to the site via new parking improvements and landscaping, but not anything to the building.
Okay. And then my second question was, I know that since the Harbor Freight's gone in and there's a dental office and a beauty supply, I know that it's kind of picked up over there as far as visits from customers and things like that. So there'll be sufficient parking to accommodate the grocery store?
Yes, the entire site does meet municipal code standard. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, then I will open up the public hearing on agenda item number 2. Is there anyone here to speak to us on item number 2? Anyone online?
No, there's not.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing on item 2 and bring it back to the commission for a determination and a motion.
I move to approve the recommendation as written.
Commissioner Cook Askin, second.
I have a first by Commissioner Messin, second by Commissioner Cook Askins. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Cook Askins.
Aye.
Commissioner Messin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Harriman.
Aye.
Chair Kurth.
Aye,
Motion passes with Commissioner Thomas being absent.
thank you. Moving on, the next 3 and the 3 last items on this agenda are have requests for continuance on these for various reasons. And we were talking earlier that we may be able to open these 3 up together, assuming there's not too many that public comments hanging out there. Could we go ahead and just cover the staff report on all three at one time?
Sure, I'll give a brief overview. So item number 3, case PLAN 21-00023. It is a mixed-use commercial and residential development on approximately 34 acres. This project, we're requesting a continuance to the July 13th meeting to allow the applicant time to respond to comments from California Department of Fish and Wildlife, also from the Carpenters Union. Jump to item number 4. Item number 4 is case PLAN 21-00040. It is a continuation request for a vesting tentative map and initial study to allow for the creation of 152 single-family lots. This is located within the Vista Verde specific plan at the northwest corner of La Mesa Road and Mesa View Drive. This continuance is also requested to the July 13th meeting to allow the applicant and staff time to evaluate the determination of the listing of the Western Joshua Tree. Both this item and item number 5 received comments from the Department of Fish and Wildlife that were not acceptable and not feasible for the applicant to accept. Coincidentally, the state's the state's Fish and Game Commission could possibly be taking action on whether or not to list that species as a threatened species and protected under the Endangered Species Act at their meeting next week. So if the commission, let me stipulate, if the Fish and Game Commission sides with the Fish and Wildlife staff to not list this species, then we expect that some of these mitigation measures that the Fish and Wildlife Department are currently recommending will no longer be applicable, and we'll bring it back to the commission with revised conditions. So I know I kind of jumped around there, but those comments regarding the Fish and Games Commission's actions also pertain to item number 5, which is case PLAN 22-00001. It is a tentative parcel map to allow for the creation of 3 parcels from one existing 15-acre C2 property located at the northeast corner of Cottonwood Street and Paiute Avenue. And with that, we're here to answer any questions you may have, but we do request that you open the public hearing on all 3 of these items, receive testimony, and leave the public hearing open and continue all 3 of them to the July 13th, 2022 meeting.
Okay, and are there any questions on any of these 3 items that are expected to be continued? Any questions for staff at this point? Okay, seeing nothing. Do we have any comments on either of these 3 folks online?
I have one public speaker, Angel Esparza.
And do we know which item that is for?
I do not.
Are you there, Mr. Esparza?
I am.
Can you tell me which item that you wanted to speak on, 3, 4, or 5?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay, then I'm going to open up the public hearing separately on item number 3. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Angel Esparza. I'm a member of the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. I live and recreate within the vicinity of the project here. We believe that that we're going to be positively impacted by the environmental impacts. We're going to be impacted by the environmental impacts of this project. The city should require the project to be built utilizing a local and skilled and trained workforce. Local hire, excuse me, local hire and skilled and trained workforce requirements reduce construction-related environmental impacts while benefiting the local economy. Other cities have not hesitated to apply skilled and trained workforce requirements to private development, excuse me, to private development projects in their cities. Local skilled and trained workforce requirements can boost economic development and mitigate transportation and greenhouse gas impacts by minimizing vehicle mile travel. The city should also revise and recirculate the mitigated negative declaration since it's critically flawed. The MND does not adequately mitigate for impacts on nesting birds in the service area since its mitigation measures is unduly narrow. Excuse me. The MND defers its air quality mitigation measures by failing to specify how often a water truck must be used, how much water the truck should distribute, and what types of chemicals and gravel are permissible for stabilization to eliminate fugitive dust. That's all I have.
Okay, is there anyone here that would like to speak to item number 3?
Can you go to the next slide?
I'm sorry? I'll keep the public hearing open on item number 3, and I'll make a motion to continue this item to the Planning Commission meeting of July 13th, 2022.
I second.
I have a first by Chair Kurth, a second by Commissioner Messin. Take a roll call vote. Commissioner Cook Askins.
Aye.
Commissioner Messin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Harriman.
Aye.
Chair Kurth.
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Thomas being absent.
Thank you. And I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on items number 4 and 5. Is there anyone here tonight to speak to us on items number 4 or 5, either of those? And nothing online?
Nothing online.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing on items. Nope, I'll leave the public hearing open on items number 4 and 5. And I will make the motion to continue each of those items to the Planning Commission's July 13th, 2022 public hearing.
I'll second that.
I have a first by Chair Kurth, a second by Vice Chair Harriman. Roll call vote. Commissioner Cook Askins.
Aye.
Commissioner Messin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Harriman.
Aye.
Chair Kurth.
Aye.
Motion passes for both items 4 and 5. With
Thank-
Commissioner Thomas being absent.
Okay, well, that wraps up the items. So at this point, any comments or presentations from commissioners? We'll start with Commissioner Harriman. Nothing. Commissioner Cook Askins.
Nothing this evening?
Commissioner Messin.
Nothing as well. Thank you.
And I'll make it unanimous with nothing tonight for myself. And how about staff comments?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Kurth. I just wanted to update the commission on the appeals that were brought to the city council at their May 17th meeting. Just wanted to report that both of those items regarding the gas station denial and the requirement for street improvements on a church on Starter Wells Road, those were both upheld by the city council. And then following our previous meeting, the tiny homes project, that there was no appeals received for that project, either from the community or the applicant. But I did want to take a moment to brief the commission on some of the comments I heard from the commission about that project not being maybe located in a preferred location, but still it was allowed through a conditional use permit. So we could agendize at a future meeting a discussion to evaluate the specific plan on appropriate locations for those type of shelters, if that's the consensus of the commission. We did in 2020 expand the use of shelters, but we never looked at where it was currently allowed to have shelters. And we did expand it in 2020 for the wellness center, that having a navigation center component in a multifamily area within that specific plan. So I just wanted to brief the commission. If there's consensus tonight, we can bring an item forward to analyze where those type of uses are permissible, so we can guide future applicants in the future. So with that, I know we don't normally agendize items, but if you guys want to give direction tonight, or bring it up at a future meeting, that's fine. But I just wanted to bring it up since I felt there was a consensus there that it may not be the most appropriate location, but it was still enough for the commission to approve.
At this point, let's just take an informal kind of poll. Is that something this commission is interested into digging into
I,
further?
yes,
Commissioner Cook Askins, I'm in favor.
I'm not sure there is a perfect area, but I think that we'll be seeing more of these types of things, so it's probably best to get on it, and that's a good recommendation to take a look at it a little bit deeper and get a little more information on the future.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. We'll bring something in the coming months for your
Okay, thank you.
evaluation. Thank you. That was all I had.
Okay, anything else? Anyone?
yeah. Do we have an ordinance or anything in place for requiring self-locking shopping carts?
We do. We have our senior planner, Alex Haddigy, here. He could give you some more information on it now, or or can provide it to you directly. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, we have a shopping cart ordinance that for existing businesses that have shopping carts, we review the amount of carts that we pick up, that the city's contractor picks up, that we employ. We review those, I believe it's quarterly, and based on the amount of carts, there's a process for implementing, I believe it begins with a notice of violation, and then if the issue continues, they're given the opportunity to provide their own cart collection service. And then if the problem continues again, then the zoning administrator, in conjunction with the code enforcement official, can require that the business gain approval of a cart containment plan, which could include a variety of measures, whether it's maintaining carts indoors, whether it's lockable carts that are like based on location. If they cross a line, they lock wheels, or it could be coin based, like some retailers do now, where you put in a coin to return it. So yes, there are measures in place, but there are escalators to get there.
I'd like to put something on the agenda to change that up a little bit. And I think we need to place like for newer, as we develop, and try to figure out a square footage and have that ordinance based on a square footage of the retail space in the store, rather than wait for a problem to transpire. Because I'm telling you, in my experience, the stores around me are not doing a good job picking things. There's stuff in my neighborhood for sometimes a week and I have to actually go by the store and ask. So I'm thinking maybe like in the future, if we can come up with a square footage, but as an example, let's say somebody is going to build a retail business, and just for putting it out there, 10,000 square feet or more, then you have to have the, I believe they have some kind of a system around the perimeter that will lock them up, and require that rather than wait for us to notice that it's not happening.
Yeah, I know, when we did do the ordinance the first time, the requirement is to label and, identify each shopping cart. So we do know whose they are, and that was the first step that the ordinance accomplished. Every new retailer that comes in since the ordinance has been in effect is required to do that. At the time the ordinance was approved, we blanketed the city, went to every retailer to have them comply to whether it be a sticker or some kind of stamping. So we, number one, know whose card it is, so we can attempt to enforce the section of code. But I think that, yeah, we can.
I'm thinking we can avoid all that time you spend, in that process, going to, this is the way it is to get approved. If you want to build this and you're this many square feet, you have to, with the construction, have a system to control the shopping cart situation. I think that would help out.
Yeah, we should, I would just recommend that we maybe provide that information on the current ordinance. We can provide that to the commission. So all of you can digest what the current standards are. And then if the commission wants to give us direction at a future meeting, we could do that. Or we could take it tonight. I'm just concerned that we're getting into too much dialogue on a possible code amendment when we haven't noticed it properly.
Yeah, we can do it at a later time.
So we'll provide the current ordinance to everybody, provide a brief summary, and then we'll be interested to hear your feedback, and we can put that on a future agenda meeting.
Yeah, so if that's on an agenda, then we could all speak our piece a little bit more. And I actually have a couple thoughts on that as well. So maybe we bring that up next time or when we have.
Okay.
Next time.
So it sounds like the direction I'm receiving is we'll put it as a new business item on a future meeting, just to explain what the current code section are, so we can have more dialogue. And then at that point, if you direct us to do a code amendment, we'll notice it as a code amendment and bring forward possible code changes. Does that sound correct?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And on that note too, I was kind of happy to see that this was the first large retail item I believe that we've had since we put the trash can requirements into place there. So I noticed that I think it's every 300 feet now, and they have to be, more heavy duty, more permanent type trash enclosures along the storefronts and around some of the parking area, and specifically in front of any food restaurant type things. So be interesting to see if that helps. So with that, I will say good evening and meeting adjourned.